A very good morning indeed. Welcome to another session of Daybreak. My name is Patrick Igunze. Now, the Ministry of Health has confirmed that 3 cases of polio virus in Garissa and Mombasa counties. Polio risk analysis done routinely in the country revealed that several counties are at high risk of polio transmission due to immunization coverage. This puts everyone in Kenya, especially children, at high risk of getting polio. The Ministry of Health partners have therefore planned emergency polio response campaign in 13 high-risk counties in order to protect all children under 5 years of age. The strategy to eradicate polio is therefore based on preventing infection by immunizing everyone, every child, until transmission stops and the world is polio-free. But as we speak, many people still have quite a number of questions as far as polio is concerned, and that's why today we are joined by Dr. Emmanuel Okunga, who's a medical practitioner, Ministry of Health, and acting head of Division of Disease Surveillance and Response. Welcome, Dr. Ari.
Thank you, Patrick.
Try and paint a picture what the situation looks like as far as polio is concerned here in the country.
Once again, Patrick, thank you. Now, polio, as you know, is an incurable illness, viral illness, that usually presents with paralysis of the limbs, usually the legs or the arms. And over the years, in our country, we have seen the decline of these cases, so you do not see as many people getting paralyzed as before, largely because of the success of our immunization programs.
Yeah.
In Kenya, our last local case of polio was in 2014. However, we live in an environment where a lot of our neighbors have weak health systems, and therefore the immunization coverages are very low, and they continue to have polio transmission. So, because of our population movement in the region, our country remains at risk of polio. And that is what is leading us to this campaign, because we had importation of polio cases from one of our neighboring countries, and this was detected in 3 children and 2 environmental samples from Garissa and Mombasa. And in reaction to that, we have to conduct what we call a response, an outbreak response campaign to make sure that we protect all our children. Lastly, because of the COVID situation in the country, about 300,000 children missed their vaccination last year, coming to this year. So those children are at risk of polio, or contracting polio. So we must conduct these response activities to protect all our children in the country.
Okay, we had medical officers from different parts of the country actually going around and giving these doses of immunization to children not so long ago. I'm talking about, I think, 2-3 months ago. But then again, over the weekend, over the last couple of days running into, I think, until today, we still are going to have these medical practitioners and health officers doing the same. What's the difference between the first round of immunization and the current one that's ongoing, and why is it that we are having these 2 rounds of immunization as far as polio goes?
Thank you again. So in the first round of immunization, we vaccinated children in the same 13 counties we are vaccinating right now. And during that round, we reached 93% of the population that we intended to reach, meaning that we did not reach 7% of the intended population. So in this particular round, we intend to make sure that we reach all the 3.4 million children in this region, and these booster doses, these 2 doses boost the immunity, and they are safe through the period.
Amazing. And how safe are the polio vaccines? Because we have those who are skeptical, especially this coming at a time when we also have vaccines against COVID. And people are asking questions, is it okay for my child to be subjected to this vaccination about polio? How safe is it? If you can take us through some of the rigorous processes that these vaccines go through before they're actually released to the public.
Thank you again, Patrick. So polio vaccines are very safe. Remember that as we even vaccinate for the outbreak response, we continue to vaccinate children routinely in our clinics against polio, usually at birth, after 6 weeks, and another 10 weeks and 14 weeks. So these vaccines first are approved internationally. WHO gives clearance. Before they come in country, we also have a clearance process where the vaccines are tested, and the government, of course, as you know, the government cannot agree to issue vaccines that are not safe to its people. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then recently we had a case in our neighborhood where a lady complained that her daughter had gotten 2 rounds of immunization for polio within a span of, I think, less than a week. Does that have any effect on children, perhaps by mistake, who may be subjected to such kind of a situation? You get one, and then because of a reason or the other, you realize that again, when another round is being conducted, or when they're traveling somewhere else, they are again given a dose of these polio vaccines. I wonder whether it has any negative effect to those who partake of that.
Now, largely that will... several rounds of polio vaccination are safe. We do not expect any untoward reactions, largely. A few children may have side effects just like any other immunization, which are effects like swelling around the infection site if it is a measles vaccination, but polio is given through the mouth. So usually what you may have is a bit of diarrhea, but largely the polio vaccine is safe, even after many rounds. However, what we need to realize is that we've just concluded a measles campaign. So many parents are not differentiating the measles campaign from the polio campaign.
All right.
The initial polio campaign in round 1 we conducted in May. Then we followed that with a measles campaign which is injectable. And so parents need to differentiate. The measles campaign, we were injecting children. The polio campaign, we are giving children doses through the mouth.
All right. Amazing. And what are some of the symptoms to look out for if you're suspecting that my child or someone closer to me or my neighbor might be actually having, let's say, symptoms of polio? What are those signs to look out for and raise the red flag?
So largely, when one gets a polio infection, they'll initially present more like a common flu or cold, yeah? Which after a few days will progress to weakness of the legs or the arms or both. In extreme situations, you may find difficulty in breathing because of paralysis of the chest muscles, which can lead to death. Now, what we do routinely to look out for polio cases is to look for any child with weakness of the legs or the arms. That is a sign that should be picked out early and reported to the health authorities.
All right, amazing. And we are being told that we have been having the current polio campaign ongoing in 13 high-risk areas, and I would just like to outline those areas. We do have Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, Tana River, Lamu, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kitui, Machakos, Kiambu, Kajiado, and Nairobi. And Dr. would like to pose as we come to an end, why these particular counties?
Yes, thank you again. So we usually conduct what we call a risk analysis, and the risk analysis is usually based on what is the vaccination coverage in the counties, what is the proximity of those counties to where the risk is highest. For example, those counties, if you look at them, they are largely in northeastern, the coast, Nairobi, Kajiado, Machakos, and Kitui.
Yeah.
And these are areas where we have population movements from a neighboring country in the north, where immunization coverage is poor due to the security challenges there. So that is why we have to provide a barrier of infection transmission in those areas as a priority. However, that does not mean that all the other counties are not at risk. We are saying these are the counties at highest risk. However, all the other counties must still be protecting their children through routine immunization.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Dr. Emmanuel Okunga, medical epidemiologist, Ministry of Health, Acting Head Division of Disease Surveillance and Response. And we will be bringing it to an end at that particular point, but I would like to highlight that, remember, polio is a very serious disease that can cause paralysis, can paralyze, and even cause death in some cases. It enters the body through water or food that has been contaminated with the polio virus. Polio spreads very easily throughout communities, and every child, as we speak, is at risk. For this reason, all children under the age of 5 must be vaccinated. Remember, there is no cure for polio, but there are safe, tested, and effective vaccines that can prevent polio. My name is Patrick Igunzi. We are taking a short break. When we come back, we will be working out. Make sure don't touch the dial.